disorders. First of all, does anyone know what autism is? Can somebody tell me what autism is? Yes. Yes, very good. Autism is a complex neurological disorder that affects the way a person's brain and body works. 1 out of every 68 people have autism in the United States of America. And it primarily affects individuals in areas of social interaction, communication, and behavior. Autism is a spectrum disorder, meaning symptoms can come from mild to severe. And since it is a spectrum disorder, none of these cases will be exactly the same. There could be mild cases, there could be severe cases, or cases of autism right in the middle. Along with autism is Aspergers, which is another form of autism, but a little more milder. Because milder cases are being identified more frequently, the incidences of autism syndrome appear to be increasing. And boys are 3 to 4 more times likely to have autism than girls. Some of you might be wondering, well, we've got some of the statistics down about how many people have autism. So what does autism exactly do? What do people with autism have a hard time with or not understand? Those with autism might not understand rules or get anxious when rules aren't followed exactly. So an example of this, your friends are playing kickball on a kickball field during recess, even though we don't have that anymore in high school. You guys are playing kickball, and you have a couple new rules that you play with, and these rules are fair game, so no one's going to get hurt. It's just a couple ways the game's played a little differently. Someone with autism decides to join the game and like, hey, I want to play, and he or she is exposed to the new rules. That one with autism might get a little anxious because the rules aren't exactly as he or she might remember. Others with autism might follow certain routines, such as sitting in the same place in the cafeteria or taking the same route to class in the hallways. Although, we almost do that every single day. Those with autism might take it a little further and have like certain times in the day when they do therapy exercises, or see a therapist to go to certain sessions. They might have a certain time in the day where they eat a certain meal, so on and so forth. Others with autism have an intense desire to pursue an interest or become very focused on a particular thing, such as video games, mythology, sports facts. For those of you who didn't know this, I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And a lot of these things that I'm going to be talking about today happened to me on this list. One of those have been having an intense desire to pursue a certain interest. Now, when I was younger, I had a huge, you could call it almost an obsession as well. So I guess you could say I was obsessed with my aunt's old mansion in Champaign, Illinois. She had this mansion, and I loved it. And I was like, I want to know everything about it. It was humongous. It was like gigantic. And the only thing I talk about with people is my aunt's old mansion and bed and breakfast. I didn't care who you were. I didn't care if you were young, old, or whoever. I would talk to you about that. And that would be the only thing I talked about. So that was just one of the things. Others with autism might have a hard time coping with everyday challenges, such as schedule changes. So, kind of with the thing with the top, when the rules don't get followed exactly, they might get very anxious when the schedules aren't followed exactly. So, for example, you're in your school, you go to class from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, or so on and so forth, and then there's a fire drill. One with autism might be very anxious because, hey, that's not what we're supposed to do. That's not what I'm used to. That's not something that happens every day. Other teens with autism spectrum disorder might not be able to make eye contact or may stare or make eye contact that is too intense when talking to you. So, for an example, I'm going to pull up, I'm going to pick on one of you guys in here. I'm going to do Anna over there. Hi, Anna. So, I might be talking to you. We might be having a conversation, and I might be looking at that flag over there. Not because I don't want to talk to you, but because it might be intense for me. Okay, I'm done. So, thank you, Anna. Others with autism might react strongly and become overwhelmed by things such as a noisy cafeteria, gyms, fire alarms, crowded hallways, and fluorescent lights. In other words, those with autism, their five senses are heightened or more sensitive. So we have sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. Those with autism might be very sensitive in some of those areas. With me, when it comes to sight, I had a hard time with fluorescent lights when I was younger. I get very anxious because maybe of the way it looked in the room. When it comes to hearing, I always had headphones in very loud situations. So even in a grade school assembly with a room full of about 400, 500 people, it wasn't really super loud, but for me, I had these huge headphones on because it was so much for me to handle at the time. When it comes to tastes, I have the same foods almost every single day. Those of you who've eaten lunch with me know I have the same exact peanut butter sandwich every single day. I have the same breakfast every day, so I've been having oatmeal for the last 15 years, I think? Yeah. Others with autism might not be able to recognize and protect themselves from bullying and teasing in school or on the public internet. Others might be very concrete little thinkers and not be able to understand sarcasm and jokes. So, for example, when someone says to someone who might have autism like me, he let the cat out of the bag. I might have thought when I was younger, oh wow, someone actually let a cat out of a bag. And so, I mean, I didn't really understand jokes. Like, whenever my dad jokes around with me, he might just say something as a joke, and all of a sudden I think it's very real. He's like, dude, it's a joke. And so, I mean, that's something I've had to get gotten used to over the last few years. Others with autism might stand too close when talking and might not be able to hint that a conversation is over. For example, so when you're in a when you're talking with a group of friends, you're talking about your weekend, you're talking about your weekend, and you talk about how you went to the Milwaukee Brewers game over the weekend. And they might change the subject as the conversation goes and talk about Monday. You might be still talking about the Milwaukee Brewers, then go in depth about the players, the facility itself, some of the history about it. Someone with autism might go extremely in depth about something like that. Others with autism might make comments that seem rude without understanding the social impact. Others with autism might not be able to care or be unaware of other people's feelings. They might want to make friends, but not want to talk about other things in their special interests. So again, with me, when I talked about my aunt's bed and breakfast mansion all the time, I didn't want to talk about what other people wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the bed and breakfast I liked. So others might not be able to interpret facial expressions. For example, when a teacher gives you a meaningful look, then it's time to be quiet in class. Others with autism might not be able to speak and might use another form of communication when talking to people. This is for students who are more on the severe spectrum of autism. So they might not be able to speak at all. They might use kind of communication gestures like flapping their hands because they're trying to get an emotion out, they're trying to get a thought out, but verbally are unable to do it. So that's their way of communicating with others. Others with autism might have a formal, very precise language, which makes them sound a little different than others. When I was in middle school, I talked very formal to my friends. I talked like I was in the middle of a boardroom. When, for example, I was out on a field trip to a zoo, something like that. Others might be prefaced that he or she heard from a movie, video game, previous conversations, not even knowing sometimes what it means, even if it's inappropriate. Others with autism might have hard time staying on task during a conversation or on topic. They have a hard time understanding when it's their turn to talk in a conversation. And this one is still huge with me today. No matter how hard I try, I always find myself talking at the wrong time in a conversation. For example, I'll be talking to about 5, 6 people, and even a couple people, and we're talking about yada, 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 and I'm like, all of a sudden there's a slight pause, and I'm like, okay, it's my turn to talk. And all of a sudden I open my mouth just a little bit, and all of a sudden someone else goes again. It's like, oh, I thought it was my turn. But those with autism, their brains are wired differently, so they have a harder time knowing when it's their turn to talk in a conversation compared to those without autism. Others might forget to use greetings such as hello and goodbye. And now we're going to get on to autism and bullying. Unfortunately, those with autism are a greater target for bullying. First of all, who does not like bullying? Who thinks bullying is bad? I want to see a show of hands. I want to see a show of hands. Okay, good. Okay, bullying's not cool at all. But unfortunately, again, those with autism are a greater target at bullying. Actually, 40% of those with autism have been bullied during school. Now, you have a room with about 100 kids with autism. Take 40 of them, put them over here. That's how many got bullied in school. Now, out of that 40, take another 25 to 30 of those kids, put them in another category. Those guys, those with autism, are still being bullied in those adult years. So 56% of those with autism who have been bullied in grade school are still being bullied after the age of 18. The impact of bullying for people with autism can be devastating and continue into life. Those with autism might have dreams, like you and me, and they might have dreams of becoming more independent, trying to maybe get into non-special ed courses, maybe trying to eliminate the special ed plan so they can move on their own one day. Some might just want to get a college education. Some simply might just want to graduate high school. And bullying can prevent them from doing that. It can demotivate them, not just for those with autism, but for anyone. Now the question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we not bully those with autism, or just people in general? And you're going to hear everyone who's anti-bullying say this, is don't do it in the first place. As simple as that. So when you see bullying, stop them. Just say, hey, how do you like it if someone did that to you? And you know what? We're all a little different. And those with autism have their own way of being different. What they do in public or wherever, it's just them trying to get through the day, just like you and me. They might have their own way. They might dress a certain way. They might talk a certain way. They might do things a little differently than us. But that's their way of trying to get through the day. And no matter how differently we are from everyone else, and how different someone with autism is compared to someone else, you know what we all have in common? Flesh and bone and a beating heart. Think about that. Because, we're all human. So why don't we treat everyone like a human? Why don't we treat everyone like the way we want to be treated? And just stop in the first place. And other things you can do to help those with autism, whether they're being bullied or not, is accept your friend's differences. Know again that he or she does what they do to try to make it through the day, to try to help themselves feel comfortable in situations, to find ways of trying to get through anxiety. You can join your friends in activities that interest him or her. Speak in a manner that's age appropriate. This is for those more maybe on the severe side, who doesn't have that higher end vocabulary. So speak at a level that's going to be easy for them to communicate back to you. Now I'm not saying don't talk to them like a 2 or 3-year-old, but talk to them at an easy vocabulary level so they can be able to partake in a conversation. Be patient and understand that your friend doesn't mean to bother you or others, and protect your friend when others try to bully him and make him or her do something that's not appropriate. Another thing with those with autism is they might not be able to understand right from wrong some of the times. So they might be able to be more manipulated by their other peers. So you might have one trying to talk to someone with autism, hey, you should do this even though it's not good. It's a cool thing to do. So maybe rob a grocery store. Hey, it's a cool thing to do. You should totally do it. One with autism might think, oh yeah, it is the cool thing to do, but that guy over there told me to do it. And for those without autism, your job is to tell the bully and the student and the other kid with autism, hey, that's not right. Simple as that. Give your friend a little more time to answer a question and complete an activity. That's another thing you can do. Invite your friend to join you and your group friends and activities, such as going to the movies, going to a sporting event, or just hanging out in general. You can help other teens learn and accept about autism. Remember, one with autism just wants to get through the day like you and me. And another thing exactly you can do is just talk to someone with autism. When I was in middle school, I used to be that kid who sat in the corner of the playground, just wishing, man, I wish someone would talk to me. Because when I was younger, I got picked on for talking a lot and being a little different. People called me annoying and different. And it demotivated me from talking to anyone. And I just stand in the corner of the playground or at recess, just like, man, I wish someone would talk to me. Be that guy and talk to someone who's sitting at the corner not talking to anyone. Say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? What are you eating? What you listening to? What you playing if they've got like a Nintendo video game system? Who knows? That person over there might become your best friend one day, and you're just avoiding it. You never know unless you say, hey, what's going on? Again, you've heard it a million times. You never know unless you try. And here's some of the highlights from this part of the presentation. Be courteous to those with autism. Help them understand certain things in certain situations. Help your friend with autism be more comfortable in situations that might make him or her very anxious. With the help of you guys, you can make the lives of those with autism and any other disability a lot easier as they go through high school and through their education. Alright, and that's all from that part of the presentation. Now that we've gotten through that part of the presentation, I'm going to tell you a little about what I've had to do to overcome some of the things that have happened with me and autism. First of all, I was born in 1997. I was the first born. My parents thought I was going to be a completely normal baby, living a happy life, so on and so forth, the American dream. And so, I was doing fine until I reached about 18 months old. And that's when I started showing signs of developmental disability. So, the first thing that my parents noticed was I started screaming when the telephone rang. I wouldn't respond when they called my name. My parents thought I was deaf for a while. And another thing is, if you remember those little VCR things, hopefully I'm not too old here, I used to line them up, little by little, piece by piece, VCR by VCR, in a perfectly straight line. And my mother would, her over there, she would just move the thing, move the VCR, and I would scream, "Thank you, Mom." And so, after that, I started going through several tests and sessions until a doctor said to my mom, "You know your child has autism, right?" We didn't know that. And that's when this whole road began. I started going through therapies, physical therapy, behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapies, many other more therapies, holy therapies. So, you might be wondering what some of these therapies are. So, let's get a little more in depth. Physical therapy, not the kind you go for a broken elbow in a football game. This is the kind of therapy where I went to learn how to cope and learn how to calm myself down in anxious situations. I went to speech therapy to help me with my rate of speech, pronounce certain letters and vowels, and help with my rate of speech because I talked very fast when I was younger. If you think I talk fast now, well, you better have met me a few years ago. I also went to behavioral therapy to learn how to harness my anxiety and not turn it into anger. Occupational therapy is where I went to help with my fine motor skills. So like looking at people in the eye contact, writing stuff. Those with autism have poor fine motor skills. So it's harder for them to write, look at people in the eye, areas and things like that. And so when I was 3, as the therapy was progressing, I was just learning to talk at this point. I was put into early childhood development to help me with getting used to social situations, try to get back up to par where other kids my age were. I often found myself in a lot of trouble at the behavioral side. I found myself in what we call back in that class, the purple chair. And that purple chair was where you went if you were in trouble. And everyone got to see you if you were in trouble. I got to be pretty good friends with that purple chair. And as the years progressed, I found myself in that chair less and less and less because I learned how to be in social situations. I learned that this is acceptable, this isn't acceptable, this is okay, this is not okay. And that kind of went on for a while. I started learning more rights from wrongs. And as I hit middle school, after I moved up here from Chicago, I hit middle school, and that's when I started seeing that I was going into kind of people started to notice that I had autism or some kind of disability. I also started getting sensitive in one of my areas in 5 senses, and that was touch. This is where it gets interesting. In middle school, I started was called the cat hair covered suit boy, because I wear that same suit every single day. For those of you who might have went to Wheatland, you might remember this. When I was out at school, I wore the same suit every day, and it just made me feel comfortable in situations. It helped me get through the day. But I eventually found myself in isolation, kind of finding myself at the corner of the playground, just wishing, man, I wish someone would talk to me. And when I got into 8th grade, I knew that I had to change. I had to fix myself up. I was going to show people that I was going to show my parents that I was going to be able to go to college, because I was still under what they call an individual education plan. I still had class aides helping me in class, and I wanted them gone. They're the ones who help those with certain disabilities with class every day. And I know, and I respect that they were there, but in my mind, I was like, I want them gone. We're on good terms now, luckily, me and those who helped me in the past. But back then, I really just wanted them gone. When I had to prove, when I was going to 8th grade, I want to be independent in high school. I want to show my parents, I want to show everyone that I've met that I can do this. And that's when I started noticing change. I stopped wearing a suit, but I wore I still wore nice polos and khakis, so it was progress. It was progress. And then I started actually talking to a group of people at my school. And I was actually really, really scared to start talking to these group of kids. I mean, I got picked on when I tried to sit over there at the lunch table by others, and it just really made me feel demotivated. But eventually I started actually talking to them. But when I tried to say the names, I stuttered. I would just shake, like, what if I said the name when they didn't like the way I said it? Because I haven't talked to really a lot of people in that long. It was years before I actually got in like a big group conversation. So it was a big step for me to try to actually talk to people again, like, wow, I'm talking to people again. And then as soon as I started talking to people, I started learning more social cues, more rights from wrongs, many of those things. But it was one day I was talking to one of my friend's moms, and this is where the story takes off, and I think that because I say that I've conquered autism. This is why I really started to notice me making that breakthrough. My friend's mom was saying, you should join cross country. And this mom was wearing a cross country shirt with an arrow on it, like the cross country logos for those of you who know. I looked at her and I was like, I'm not doing archery. I'm not doing archery. I can't throw a bow and arrow straight. She's like, no, it's running. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I start doing cross country, and I start meeting people, and I start learning more ways to socialize with people, more rights from wrongs, more ways of being in a social situation. And it was that really helped me make the friends I have today. There's some of the people in that team that have helped me be able to be on the stage today talking to you guys. There was some of those people, it was that team that I'm in 10 clubs at Central. It's those people on that team, those who've helped me in the past. Why I do announcements every day, why I'm up here again today, why I do many things around here, I guess you can say. And I'm still not done battling autism yet. There's still a lot of things I know I gotta do, but for the most part, a few years ago, I wouldn't picture myself being up here today talking to those with disabilities and without disabilities. And I don't think I'd rather be anywhere else than talking to you guys. So I want to say thank you for listening to this presentation. Before we go, does anyone have any questions about me, autism, anything along those lines? We don't have much time, but I'll take any questions we have now. And if there's time afterwards, you can come up to me afterwards. Does anyone have any questions? Come on, there's got to be something. Anyone have any questions? Oh, yeah, speak loudly.
Did you finally make it into general ed classes?
Yes, a lot of the things during middle school, I was in some of the special ed classes to try to help me and be a little more one-on-one with the learning so I could focus a little more. And by high school, I was in honors classes, a couple AP classes, and yeah, I was. Good question. Yes?
Do autism have really bad case of memory?
Do I have bad memory? I have bad short...
Do kids with autism have really bad case of memory?
Do kids with autism have bad case of memory?
Yeah.
Yeah. what I've noticed is those with autism have bad short-term memory, but have good long-term memory. I remembered my state capitals when I was 4. So, yeah. Anyone have any other questions? Yes?
Are you going to college?
Yes, I'm actually going to UW Oshkosh in the fall, so that was one of the dreams that I made come true. Any more questions? Bueller? All right. So if you have anything else, any questions that you think of after the presentation, you can come up to me and talk to me. I want to thank you all for being such a great audience.